Greetings, old school magic players, and welcome to the Four Horsemen. Greetings, old school magic players, and welcome to the Four Horsemen on a Friday night. Tonight we're going to be doing tournament number 14, finals. The long-awaited tournament 14 finals match. This has been a really interesting tournament, and tonight we are going to see the two top decks facing off. fourhorsemenmagic.com, facebook.com/group/fourhorsemenmtg. Check us out. We are the only old school format that focuses on the original first four expansions of Old School Magic: The Gathering, Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, and The Dark. Tournament 14 ran May 17th through June 16th, so this is a summer tournament. We're well into the winter now. And the ban of restricted is as you've seen here. It's been the same since tournament 13. And if we take a look at our brackets, we are all the way at the end of this playoffs in the finals match. John Arkelberry, who's a long-term Four Horsemen supporter and one of our committee members, is facing off in the finals versus Tim Kincaid. John, this match has been long awaited, and it's been a while since you played this match, but are you ready to do the commentary for this?
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Awesome. We had a great set of players in this Four Horsemen Tournament 14 match, and some really fantastic matches that have built up to this. But tonight, the Blue Steel Robots faces off with Underworld Sanctuary. Let's take a look at the decks. All right, John. Blue Steel Robots, we've covered it all in the prior videos. This deck is just top-notch. It's very robust, well-rounded, and difficult to beat. Obviously, you're here in the finals with it, and it's going to be interesting to see how these two decks face off.
Yeah, I've got, it's going to be interesting when we look at his list in a second. It's very, very different than what I'm doing. But this has a lot of answers for a lot of stuff. So, I feel pretty good going into any Four Horsemen match with this deck, and the slight variations of it that I've played prior. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, agreed. Let's take a look at Tim's deck. We did do a deck tech review, but it's been several videos back, and we didn't have the semifinals match with Tim. So let's take a look at Tim's deck and talk about, how a deck like this has emerged as a pretty much undefeated deck construct in Four Horsemen for this tournament.
Yeah, we just before the video here, we just went through and counted it up. He's got 21 mainboard enchantments, and on top of that, a few other pieces of removal, and then 2 creatures. So this is a pretty hardcore control deck. Just attempting to lock the game up and then eventually find some kind of win condition. It's a tough one.
Yeah. This deck is very unique and interesting, and obviously Tim is exploiting the, let's just say, challenges of the Four Horsemen format. He's really leaned into the enchantments angle and just gone all the way to the max. Like a deck with only 2 creatures and 1 factory, but it's effective because he has so many answers to so many things: drawing, life gain, creature disablement, the Abyss, Oubliette, Spirit Link, Spiritual Sanctuary for life gain, which is a card that like not many people have used before, Greed for drawing, Thanos Coffin, Underworld Dreams for automatic damage. This deck is just off the charts, right?
Yeah, he's got a lot going on here. I really like Underworld Dreams here as a perpetual way to drew damage to your opponent in a draw go scenario. And another card that I really like here that I had never seen anybody play until this tournament is that white enchantment there that just gains you 1 life every turn if you control a plains.
Spiritual Sanctuary.
It's kind of neat. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it adds up when you're just sitting around.
That's right. Yeah, the card is Spiritual Sanctuary. And let's take a look at that card because it's a card that we do not see much in in Four Horsemen or in any old school format. Like
I honestly don't think I'd ever seen that card before. I mean, I'm sure I saw it flipping through a binder or looking through sets or whatever, but it was so forgettable and so out of my mind. Like I saw that card and I'm like, what? Like, what are you playing? What is this card? I had to look it up and I was like, it felt like it was a new Magic card.
Right. Yeah. It's true. It's a crazy card. And it's not something that any of us have ever, like, we've played with these cards, but it's not a card you see on a daily basis. Okay, so I'm trying to switch over to the Gatherer here. What is going on?
Well, we always like to, we always point out that when we see cards like that we don't normally see, we like that about this format, that, cards can have their time in the sun, and I do like that card. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right, here we go. The Gatherer finally got this thing going. Okay, so here's a look at Spiritual Sanctuary. Enchantment, 2 white and 2, so 4 casting cost. At the beginning of a player's upkeep, if that player controls a plains, they gain 1 life. So it's a guaranteed 1 life per turn. And then you've got other cards like, for example, Ivory Tower, which gains you life for cards over 4. And then you've got Fountain of Youth, which gains you life. And then you've got the Divine Offerings. He's running 3 of those main deck, 1 in the sideboard. Those gain life. I'm kind of curious that he decided not to run. Oh no, he has them. He has Ashes to Ashes here by the Greeds in the 3rd line there. So the Ashes to Ashes will remove 2 creatures from the game, and so he can gain life and then remove creatures for 2 black and 1. Pretty powerful combo.
Yeah, and those Ashes to Ashes are not only very effective, but if you're gaining life from things like Ivory Tower and Fountain Youth and the other enchantment there, you have a little more leeway to play all of them in the same game if you need to.
Yeah, so there's just so much going on with this deck, and obviously he's made it all the way to the finals, and he's not been defeated. This deck is a real challenge for everyone to deal with. The other card I wanted to look at that we basically never see is that Spirit Shackle, which is the card that's on the lower right-hand corner with the really cool Edward Beard Jr. art. Let's take a look at that card. The art on this card is so reminiscent of Old School Magic. It's interesting. A lot of these artists have similar styles back in the day, but Edward Beard Jr. is not he's not one of like more well-known artists, right, John? I don't think he has a ton of art in these sets.
No, not.
John, we lost you there.
Sorry, I'm muted. I got a lot of background.
Okay. Yeah, but this Spirit Shackle, this card is interesting because it's an enchant creature card. It costs 2 black, and it says whenever enchanted creature becomes tapped, you put a -0/-2 counter on it. So at first glance, this card seems like it's terrible. Like, this is not a card you're going to be hankering to slam into your deck. But there's so many cards in Four Horsemen that a -0/-2 completely like kills that creature. Or, on the second turn, it's going to be gone, including all the blue flyers and Suchi and pretty much everything but Urnimjin. This card can literally take out almost any of the mainstream Four Horsemen creature cards. So it's very relevant in this deck in particular because of all the powerful enchantments that Tim's trying to exploit. So this Underworld Sanctuary deck is a real force to be reckoned with in Four Horsemen Tournament 14. In his sideboard, let's take a look at the sideboard. We've got 2 Preachers and an extra Underworld Dreams, 2 Kumbaj Witches, a Felden's Cane, a couple of, what is that? A Greater Realm of Preservation, protection from black and red, a Cleanse, an extra Divine Offering, another Dust to Dust, a Millstone, and then a couple Blights and a Skull of Orm. This Skull of Orm is really powerful. I'm surprised he's not running Skull of Orm main deck to get back a lot of these enchantments, but he's got it in the sideboard in case he needs it, in case 21 enchantments is not enough.
Maybe he needs 25 enchantments. You never know.
Yeah. The only enchantment that Tim is not running in this deck that he could have run if he had run Savannahs instead of just basic plains is he's not running Drop of Honey. Drop of Honey is absolutely devastating to weenie decks and aggro decks, and he could have very easily run that in this deck by running, he could have just run a couple of Savannahs and a couple of Bayous, or maybe 3 Savannahs and 3 Bayous if he's worried about, the Blood Moon.
I think it would make his deck a lot weaker to Blood Moon, though.
Yeah.
And, in order to just shoehorn one more card in, I think it's pretty neat that he has a hardcore control deck that doesn't have blue in it. Just black and white. And he's not particularly vulnerable to Blood Moon. He's got a lot of basics. He's got a lot of planes to trigger his Sanctuary. I don't know. I like it. I think I like the build. I hear what you're saying, but he has so much removal that I don't know that he even needs an extra piece. Although, that being said, the Drop of Honey with the Skull of Orm is pretty mean.
Drop of Honey with Skull of Orm is soul crushing. It's absolutely horrible to play against. And this is why you have to play Artifact Destruction in your main deck, and you got to have extra Artifact Destruction in your sideboard in Four Horsemen. So the other thing that he's got going on, and maybe the reason why he didn't end up in the tricolor area, is he's playing 4 land tax. And, land tax is a card that has long been played in Four Horsemen as well as other old school formats. But in Four Horsemen, land tax is particularly powerful. This card was originally printed in Legends, been reprinted a ton of times. And, classic Brian Snooty art from the original Legends print. And this card just allows you to grab basic lands, up to 3 basic lands if your opponent controls more lands than you. And so I think you're right, John. I think he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. He's got 12 basic lands that he can go grab with that land tax.
Yeah, you got to play at least that in order to make the land tax relevant. If he just had a whole bunch of duels and, less basics than he's got on the table right now, those land taxes would not be particularly effective.
Yeah. So, super interesting creative out-of-the-box build by Tim Kincaid, Enchanted Underworld Sanctuary. I think with that deck tech wrapped up, we are ready to get into the finals match. All right, John and I have the match queued up in VLC. We're going to switch over. And let me make sure I've got this lined up. Eckleberry versus Kincaid. All right, John, I got mine at 1.5. Are you ready on the count of 3?
I'm ready.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Here we go.
Oh, and my VLC player crashed. That's cool.
Okay, I'll pause and go back.
Okay, let me go back in.
VLC and player crashed. Again.
That's weird. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. Okay, let's try this again. T14, here's the right video. What's the deal? What's the deal? Is VLC not going to load? There it goes. Oh, why is it in some weird full screen mode, though? My VLC is doing weird things. Hold on. Okay. What the heck?
No good?
No good. I might have to reboot.
Oh, shit. All right. Well, John is going to reboot, so we we have a bit of a lull in the video here. So I think what we should do is, why don't we go back to the deck photos and take a look at these. In the prior videos, we've talked quite a bit about John's Blue Steel Robots deck. This deck has really shown itself to be incredibly robust against a wide variety of decks. Now, John has evolved this deck over time, adding things like the Force Spikes, the Amnesias, the Boomerangs, and he's modified the sideboard quite a bit over a lot of these tournaments, adding and taking out different cards. And one of the interesting things is a lot of the blue decks that are splashing in, green and white and red, they end up mixing in 3 colors and they're very vulnerable to Blood Moon. One of the things John does not have to worry about is Blood Moon. He's got just straight up islands across the board. He's got a lot of artifact creatures between the Clockwork Avians and the Triskelions. He's got tons of counter magic between the Remove Souls, the Mana Drain, and the Force Spikes. So, John, are you back?
Okay, everything's good. We're good to go.
Okay, I was just doing a quick, review of your Blue Steel Robots deck while you were doing the reboot. And, I was just saying that this deck is so robust and it's so well-rounded. It's got a lot of answers for a lot of things like you were saying. It's not vulnerable to Blood Moon. It's got artifact creatures in case you run into Abyss, and it's got flyers, it's got counter magic, and those amnesias, man. If you can get into a turn 6 amnesia and just like empty your opponent's hand, it's pretty much game over. Okay.
Yeah, and that's of course what I'm hoping for here. I'm hoping to, catch him with a good amnesia, or maybe counter a key spell or something, because he's just got so much stuff. I can't really just run a bunch of creatures out against him, because he's just going to neutralize them as he goes along.
And I was going to ask that. You have seen his deck photo, right? Because we share the deck photos when we move to top 8. One of the things you could do is just not play any creatures until you draw into amnesia. And if you did that, he would be discarding a ton of his cards. He could play things like Felwyrstone, Land Tax, Jaloom Tome, and some of his life-gaining stuff like Ivory Tower and Spiritual Sanctuary. He could play Underworld Dreams and Tano's Coffin. But there's 21 cards in his deck that if you don't play a creature, he can't. Well, there's 4 land taxes, so there's 17 cards in his deck that are going to be useless if you just don't play any creatures. Did you think about that before you went into this match?
Yeah, I believe so, and I think we're going to see that in one of these games, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because in looking at his deck, it just occurs to me that, okay, he can play Felwyrstones, he can draw with his Jaloom Tomes, he can start gaining some life, but there's a shit ton of cards in his deck that are just absolutely useless if you just say, hey, you know what? I'm just not going to play any creatures until I get my amnesia, and if you hold your hand, I'm going to empty your hand.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting in a draw go situation like this, and it's not like I have to worry about him countering. Like he can't counter my amnesia. He doesn't have that capability. So, yeah, it's definitely an interesting strategy.
Well, let's see what happens. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the video now. Back to VLC. All right, John. You got it at 1-1-5?
I'm queued up at 1-5.
All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2.
All right.
3.
Here we go.
So Tim's got this really cool Black Lotus playmat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Is that a really old mat? I haven't seen that mat very often.
Yeah, I think so. There was a very similar deck box that I had that had the Lotus on one side and like a Juzum on the other. And I've seen them. I wish I still had it. Mine eventually broke because I opened the flap too many times. It was just plastic. But I see them going on eBay for a reasonable amount. And I think that mat was from around the same time. I could be wrong because a lot of the old school magic artists have put out mats since, with their stuff on it. But that one looks like an older one to me. And it's got the official Magic logo down in the corner there on it.
Yeah. So Tim starts off.
Look at that. Land tax, turn 1. That's pretty good.
Caracas land tax. Yeah, he's got his trigger on the board, and now you just have to either do nothing or play right into it. But and
I just have to let it, because the thing is like I don't think it's ever really a winning strategy to just sit there and do nothing into a land tax, because you have to develop your own board and you have to get your own game going. You can't let it hamper you. I mean, if you have 1-drops and you can put some pressure on the board, that's fine. But well, that's interesting. So I draw my 1 strip mine and I use it on his 1 factory.
Yeah, he elected to play his factory into your single island. He could have just sat there, and he could have not played a land, and he played Ivory Tower on his second turn too. So it's interesting.
Which is what I was expecting. I mean, he could have just played the tower with his Caracas and not played another land. I I was pretty surprised that he played a land at all.
Yeah,
but
me too.
I don't know. Maybe he just didn't want to. Anyway, so now I'm playing a weird game here. I boomerang his land tax so that he's not able to draw out extra lands on that turn.
Oh, but he's gaining life off that ivory tower, though.
Yeah, it does give him 1 extra life. Ooh, Fellwar Stone's good here.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, that is unbelievably good, because now he can just sit there on his 2 lands. So you elect to play your factory.
Yeah, I'm not good with just sitting there and not developing my board. So here we go. He gets to gain some more life, and so he's gotten a lot of his 1-ofs already, like the 1-of Caracas and the 1-of Ivory Tower and the 1-of Factory, and I've got my 1-of Strip Mine and my 1-of Factory. It's interesting how often these cards pop up, even when we have them restricted, and how many games get decided by just, a factory beating in. I don't know what I'm checking here. Probably, maybe I'm looking at his deck list. Yeah. Apparently not finding it. Or maybe I did. Maybe that second one I saw was his. So here's a ghost ship. I'm just kind of in desperation, just trying to race and just continue to develop my board and maybe hope that I can get in some damage before he starts really locking the game up. He does get the land tax here, which is, not great for me. Not optimum for sure.
Yeah, he's getting those lands, and then he gets that mana, or sorry, the life gain from the extra lands in his hand. He starts to really take a commanding position here right off the bat. So you've got a ghost ship, so you went ahead and played out a creature fairly early, knowing he's got like a million, enchant creatures.
Million pieces of removal, yeah. Yeah, just to see what he does. I don't really care if he, Spirit Link. I guess the only thing I really don't want him to do is Oubliette it, because that doesn't do me really any good. Definitely the Shackles is good against Ghost Ship because it doesn't care about the regeneration because it puts a minus counter on it. So
yeah,
Shackles will kill the Ghost Ship in 2 swings.
Right.
But he doesn't have any black mana at the moment. I mean, he does now because he went and he searched for some swamps. So he's gonna have black mana, but. I don't remember who wins game 1. We go to 3 games.
Oh no! Spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, it's a long enough video. There's 3 games here. So what's he end up? I don't remember what he ends up playing here. This match took place so long ago. So okay, so he Spirit Links the Ghost Ship. That's fine. There's my my double-sided Wyvern card that I use for my to mark my card to show that it's Spirit Linked. So I'm just running the creatures out in game 1 here, which is probably not that great, but I guess I got nothing else to do. Don't really want to discard. I mean, I wouldn't have had to quite yet. I've got 5 cards left in my hand, but maximizing my mana is certainly something I try to do when I can. Although against his deck, maybe I should just hold everything. Oh gosh, he gets the land tax again.
Oh yeah, all these land taxes, and his life is, what is he at? 27?
I don't know, but that's 4 lands. No, oh, he's got 2 land taxes out. Okay.
Double
So
land tax, right? Oof.
So he went ahead and got 4 of the allotted 6 that he could have got.
Well, but he's only got those 12 basic lands, so at a certain point, like, your land taxes become mute if you've already pulled out the basic lands.
Yeah, well, I mean, they will have already done their work by then, though.
Yeah.
Like, and he doesn't want to have to discard or anything.
So he goes to 32 life.
Yep, and then there's a Shackles for my other ghost ship.
Now, the Shackles is really interesting, because on cards like Ghost Ship where you can regenerate, the Shackles puts these counters on them, so the regeneration just, like, becomes muted and null.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It'll make it a 2-2 and then a 2-0.
So how are you feeling in this match right now, John? Like
I just want to see what he does, and I'm not going to win game 1. And like, I don't really ever concede. I almost never concede. I guess if I really was crunched for time or something, I might. But I usually like to see what they do and how they play, and what other tricks they have up their sleeve. I've seen his deck list, but I mean, I'm sure I'm taking this time to think about how do I win games 2 and 3, because I'm probably not going to win this one.
Right.
And so I'm, thinking about my sideboard and figuring out, what his win con is, or if there's a way for me to just sit here and maybe somehow make it so that he gets decked before I do, or, that's another potential path to victory. I don't remember who went. I think he went first, so I would have, let's see, I drew 4, I don't know. I have to do the math there. But neither of us have drawn extra cards yet, although he's taken lands out of his deck with land tax, so that means he's got less cards than I do right now. So I could potentially just sit around until his deck runs out, if he doesn't have like a Felden's Cane or something. This is where the real trouble comes in. So he's got an Underworld Dreams, right? And so now he has a win condition. Now if we sit around forever, I'm going to lose, because I'm going to lose a point of life every turn. So I'm going to have to figure out what to do about that.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the match I played against William in the previous tournament. I think it was a tournament 13 match where he kept playing Underworld Dreams, and then I kept returning it with Time Elemental, and then I had like an Ivory Tower, and I was gaining, and then I was losing, and like it was a real push and pull, every turn to try to make sure that my life stayed stable. And this is going to be another thing kind of like that, where I'm going to have to do something like that in games 2 and 3 in order to maintain, because he's sitting there just gaining a ton of life, and my life total is not really going to be relevant after a while here. I'm not playing Mirror Universe or anything like that, so I don't know. It's tough. This is a very uphill battle, this first game.
Yeah, I noticed Derek jumped in here. He's watching as a spectator. You've been operating on only 4 mana this entire game. You're a little bit mastered.
I'm really like getting a little hosed here. Like, I haven't drawn another land. I haven't drawn, my workshop. I haven't drawn any of my Fellwar stones.
Meanwhile,
so
Tim's got 10 mana sources, and you've got 5.
Yeah.
4.
And it's pretty rough. I mean, not only is he already land taxing, but he's just beating me on every angle.
Yeah.
He's got a win con on the board. I'm just chucking all these 6 drops in my graveyard because I can't cast anything.
And he's just gaining life every turn.
and he's gaining life while I do it. It's not a particularly good match for me. You know, you play all the way through a tournament and you make it to the finals, and then you have a game like this, and you're just kind of like, ugh, like it's kind of gross.
And he's got his eye on the whack.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't ever feel totally helpless with this deck though, which is nice. So, let's see, Clockwork Avian. Yeah, I mean, playing it almost seems silly, but I don't really want to have to keep discarding stuff. But
you finally got your 5th land there with that factory. Oh, and what did he just divine offerings it right away?
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, he's got so much life. What's the difference? I think my only out here is to just see if I can survive long enough to deck him. Wait and see if he has. I can't remember if he has a Felden's Cane in his main board or not, or if it's just in his sideboard. Does he have one in his main board?
Let's see. Does he have a Felden's Cane in the main board? He's got one in the sideboard, and he does not have one in the main board.
Okay, so my plan, I guess, this game is to just figure out a way to get rid of that Underworld Dreams, and then just sit here until he decks himself, which I don't know if I don't remember if I'm successful at that or not. I doubt that I am, but that's probably the plan at this point. Because he's not actually, other than the Underworld Dreams, he's not actively doing anything to kill me.
Right.
There's his Trike, one of his 2 creatures in his deck. And me with all my mana tapped and no way to counter it. That's kind of sad. It's funny, in the subsequent tournament, in T14, I wasn't gonna play this deck again, and then I kind of got crunched for time, and I ended up running back blue steel but splashing white so that I could get access to cards like Divine Offering and Presence of the Master. And Presence of the Master is pretty funny against decks like Tim's with all those enchantments because it just shuts the entire deck off. Okay, so I recall, I get rid of more useless creatures that I don't need, so I ditch 2 Clockworks. I get a Strip Mine and a Boomerang, card that I can actually use.
Wow, that's an interesting move. Yeah, so you can Boomerang your Ghost Ship back and drop off some of these enchantments.
No, I don't care about any of that. I want the Boomerang to get rid of the Underworld Dreams. So I'm gonna have to, but the problem is there's no counter spells really in this format, so I'm gonna have to draw my 1 of Mana Drain. And then Boomerang the thing, and then Mana Drain it. Or I would need post sideboard. I could have something like Time Elemental to be bouncing it every turn, but I don't have the Time Elementals in my main. It's funny, I really struggle. I love Time Elementals so much, and I feel like maybe I should be playing it in the main board, but the problem is there's so many decks in this format that I don't necessarily want it against that I mainboard the creature version that's more aggressive, and obviously it's made it to the finals for me a bunch of times, so like it seems to be the correct play. But when I hit a match like this, I'm like, boy, I should have my Time Elementals in my mainboard. But you know, you can't have it all. You gotta have them somewhere in the 75 though. So he gets a greed down. And he's got like 1 million life, so...
Well, he just Spirit Linked his own Triskelion and attacked, so he's gaining even more life.
Yeah, he can just basically draw his whole deck, and I'm just thinking, yeah, do it. Draw a whole bunch of cards. Let's just run you out of cards.
Yeah.
But I gotta figure out a way not to die here, which I obviously have not put together yet.
Yeah, this deck that Tim has built is pretty miserable to play against.
I mean, it's not doing anything though. Like it's funny. Like it's a very strange, just kind of Drago scenario because he's not threatening me really, other than that Underworld Dreams. I mean, I guess he's got the Trike now to swing with, and I'll have to find an answer for that too, I guess. So what do I end up boomeranging? I end up boomeranging
the Triskelion?
Yeah, because I'm sure I've got I'm sure I've got a remove soul, right? So like he's only got 2 creatures in his deck, so I can just get rid of that forever now. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I mean, I had to take 3 on the chin in order to do it, but it's a card that I can deal with. Whereas I just cannot deal with that Underworld unless I get my mana drain.
Brian comes in and is watching as a spectator as well.
Imagine coming into this game right now and looking at it, just being like, "What is happening?
Right?
Like, this is terrible."
You're like, "Oh my god!"
And here he plays the Sanctuary, and I'm just like, "What? What card is that?" What?
Right. Yeah, more life. You're like, "Oh great." Are you thinking at this point though that like you're like, please greed, because
yeah, just please draw cards. Like I need you to run out of cards as fast as possible because I'm dying.
Yeah. But you're down to 6 life, so I mean, he's only got 1 other creature in his deck, and you got rid of his factory already, so you can...
Yeah, his factory's gone, and his trike is neutralized because I can counter it when he plays it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, if I can get rid of that Underworld Dreams, we would just be sitting here, and I'd be stable.
Amnesia.
There's that big fat amnesia. Suck it. Discard your hand.
Wow. How many cards does he have?
7. I'm sure he has 7 non-land cards.
Right. So he's just gonna drop his whole hand here.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a couple lands. Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, so he does have a couple lands left.
Spirit Links, Divine Offerings, Triskelions. Bam. Okay, so you have just been taking it on the chin this entire game, and suddenly, you've got a possible way out, but you're only at 6 life, and he's got Underworld Dreams, so you're on a 6 turn
I still don't have an answer for the Underworld Dreams. That's the real problem. It's the thing that's gonna get me.
You need to boomerang it and mana drain it, right? But he's got 2 of them.
Yeah, that's my only out. That's my only out.
Because you have no.
And he's also got like more copies of it in his deck too. So like, if I finally find an answer, it's possible that he could just play another one, which is pretty, awful for my situation.
That's right. Here's where you really want your Diamond Valley to help you survive.
Yeah, Diamond Valley would be nice because I could be munching all those ghost ships. That'd be another 12 life that I could have.
But even that might not be enough to outlast him on the deck draw.
Well, 12 more turns is pretty good, and I could then play more creatures just to eat them.
Yeah, and somewhere in there you might get a boomerang and a mana drain. Okay, we can kind of see you flashing your hand here.
Yeah, I can't quite make out what's in there, but I kind of wish I could. Okay, so I play a trike. Yeah, it's fine, I guess. It's not gonna do anything.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Like, he's at 54 life.
Like, I don't even know, like I'm just playing it to play it, I guess, at that point. Because, like, I'm not gonna really do anything. I mean, I could attack with it, I guess, but why?
Yeah.
Make him go from 52 to 48?
Right, it's just, it's futile at this point. Yeah, and you don't have any way to gain life in your deck. So if you don't get your boomerang mana drain combo, you're just done for.
I think I've got life gain in my board. I don't know this particular month how much of it I played. If I played the Fountain of Youth this month or not.
In this one you
probably got an Ivory Tower.
In this one you have Ivory Tower, Diamond Valley, and 2 Fountain of Youth. So you do have 4 life gain.
So those will definitely come in games 2 and 3 to help stabilize.
Ooh, ashes to ashes here. That's rough. So you're just trickling downward.
Yeah, all the plays that he's making and all the plays that I'm making are completely irrelevant. Like, all that's relevant is the Underworld Dreams. It's on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, and he got it pretty early too. Imagine if he hadn't have gotten it till late game, you'd still be at like, a really high life count, and maybe you could.
I mean,
deck
I'm
him.
relieved he only has one, to be honest. Like, I mean, there's 2 more in his deck.
I love it how you're just like going through your pile of cards and pulling out Spirit Shackles.
Yeah, it's funny. I had just bought some because I was playing that black deck, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a cheap card that I don't have in the black bordered printing. Let's grab some." And so then when I saw he was playing it, I laughed. I was like, "Yeah, I have those. I can properly represent those on my side of the board."
Well, it feels like this game's just a foregone conclusion at this point.
It's a lot. I mean, I could have just conceded it and saved myself half an hour or whatever, but I really wanted to there's like, if there was a way for me to somehow deck him or, somehow win, like there's no reason there's no reason to give up a free win, I suppose.
Look at this audience we got. We got JS, Brian, and Derek all spectating. This must have been a weekend match where a lot of people were available and wanted to see this game.
Yeah, people kept jumping in.
That's cool. Oh, the Abyss comes down. Finally, the Abyss.
It's fine. It'll kill my 2 blue creatures, I guess.
That you're not using, right?
Yeah, they're irrelevant.
God, what a miserable deck to play against that Tim has built here.
Well, I mean, it's just interesting that, like, there are cards in the format, like, a card in the format, Presence of the Master, that literally just shuts his entire deck off. Like, you could just not cast anything else until you cast that, and then, like, his deck just, like, literally doesn't work. I played against a deck in the following tournament that was not the same, but similar, and I did that to the guy game 2, and it was kind of frustrating for him, but at the same time, I was like, look, I played this match last month. I know how this goes. So.
Yeah. I had in tournament 15. I had Presence of the Master 2 in my sideboard for my Living Plane Falling Star deck, and I was undefeated until the semifinals when I got crushed by Lucas. But yeah, I had some games like that too, where I just played Presence of the Master, and my opponent was like, "Oh." Shit.
so the other out, and I wasn't able to do it that game, but the hope is that you can have enough boomerang effects to send the Underworld Dreams all to their hand at the end of turn, and then amnesia them, and then they have to discard them all, and then you don't have to worry about countering them because you've gotten rid of them.
Yeah. So John, let's talk about your sideboard. What you're going to sideboard here. Should we pause the match while we talk about sideboard?
No, just let it run.
Okay.
Sideboard.
All right.
It won't take long to talk about this. So, like, I'm just going to side in all the life gain cards. I'm going to side in the Tawnos' Coffin. And I'm going to side in the Time Elementals. So, like, that's a pretty high percentage of my board that I bring in. I don't know if I bother bringing in the Millstone or not, but maybe I do. I don't know. That's a lot of cards to have to make room for. But I have a lot of cards I can take out, too, because, a lot of these creatures aren't particularly effective against him. He's got a lot of removal. I could just take out, the Drakes and the Ghost Ships and the Force Spikes, or I could take out the Drakes and the Ghost Ships and the Avians, just leave the Trikes in. It's a pretty easy modular build here to be able to side a bunch of stuff out, because we're not really going to be fighting for life total, I don't think. I think we're going to be fighting to deck the other guy.
You've got 12 easy side outs between the Fellwar Stones, the Force Spikes, and the Removed Souls. So you could very easily put in your 3 Time Elementals and your 5 life gain cards in the Tawnos Coffin and still have room for extras. I think that Millstone has to go in. It has to go in.
You love Millstone, of course you think that. But yeah, I think I do. I think I bring it in.
Yeah, you got to bring that Millstone in.
The problem is he has like a bunch of ways to destroy artifacts. So like I just it seems a little moot to play it, and then it gets blown up, and then I don't really have a way to get it back. But at the same time, I mean, in this particular match, I really wish I had a Felden's Cane in my 75, and I don't. I might in the future want to do that, but at the same time, I wanted to just be more proactive and build a deck that wouldn't lose to that kind of deck. So that's the direction I went instead. But yeah, it would be interesting to have a Felden's Cane in there. I definitely was wanting one in this match because he has one, and so now I know that he's sided his cane in for games 2 and 3, and the decking plan is probably also not going to work for me. So I've got really a huge uphill battle here.
Yeah. The other way you could go is you could be like, all right, I cannot win this game with creatures, period. So did it occur to you to sideboard out your creatures and sideboard in everything else?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. You could just take that whole top row out. You could take all 12 of those out. I'd probably leave the trikes in, but you could take out that whole top row and then just bring in 12 other cards.
Well, you don't have 12 cards to bring in though. You've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
11.
You got 8, 9. You got 9 cards you could bring in that are relevant. I mean, arena's.
I mean, the time elementals are creatures, but they're they're not creatures. So those come in for sure. That arena kind of cracks me up. I always hem and haw that we probably shouldn't even allow the book promos because they're not really Four Horsemen cards. But
well, they were released during those times.
Yeah, it was never relevant though. I don't think that card was ever relevant in the tournament, and I tried to play it a couple other times in Singleton and I think in one other month I tried to play it, but it's not a card I'm gonna bother with again. It doesn't really do anything.
All right, it looks like the match is on. So you start off with an island and a second turn Felwar Stone. Oh, and right away the Divine Offering. Jesus. Oh, that was your one shot at being able to deck him.
I'm like, oh cool, I can just do this every turn for forever, starting on turn 3, as long as he doesn't remove it, and then of course he removed it.
Yeah,
but that should be expected. He has tons of artifacts.
Yeah, he's got a couple of those Dust to Dust, and he's got 4 Divine Offerings. So maybe it would have been wiser to wait until you could protect it with a Force Spike or something.
Maybe. I don't know. There's no good counter spells. So there's his one on Felden's Cane. That's really funny. That's a funny card to play right after he blows my Millstone up.
And now he's got his Millstone.
Yeah.
So he's got 1 Millstone in the sideboard. So you each have 1 Millstone, and y'all both got it out early. But
I don't have a way to destroy his.
That's right. So. You don't have Divine Offerings. So that right there could be the end of you.
So I just run out some dudes again.
Ghost ships, yep. And he's got an Island of Whack Whack out. He Spirit Links 1, Island of Whack Whack's the other, and he's got land tax coming down. So you've been dropping lands every turn, hitting it like clockwork, and you get your Clockwork Avian coming down. Here he goes with his triple black land tax draw.
So it's funny, I didn't take any of that stuff out. I left it all in. So I don't know what my plan really is here, because I don't feel like this is a winning strategy.
Yeah, it's like your only shot at beating him is to deck him, and if your only shot at beating him is to deck him, then your Millstone becomes your absolute most important card. And it seems like if you had thought on that level, you would have been like, all right, I'm not playing this Millstone until I can protect it with a Mana Drain and a Force Spike. Right?
Yeah, it's so hard. It's hard to protect it when there's not any really relevant counter spells. So there's another Spirit Link.
So this is another reason for something like Draftness Restoration or Reconstruction in your sideboard, but you do have that 1 recall.
Yeah, I guess I have 1 recall in order to get stuff back from my group.
Land tax is just hitting every turn here. So he's already gotten 3 cards. Is he getting 3 more or 2 more? Looks like 2 more. He's getting 2 swamps and a plains. Getting them all. Well, that's good. You want him to land tax because that will run him out of cards sooner if the game goes long and there's a possibility you could get your Millstone back with your recall. The problem is...
But he's got that Belden's cane, so I don't know. Decking him seems bad as well. It's not really a thing that's going to happen. Because I can't get rid of the Felden's cane, so he could wait till he has, like, literally no cards left in his library and then use the Felden's cane. So
yeah. So at this point, you're like, okay, I have to beat him on creature damage. And now he gets that Spiritual Sanctuary, so now he's gaining life. Ugh, what a match. Brutal. So you tap 6 here. Oh, look at this. Amnesia. The Amnesia coming down. So he loses an Abyss and what was that other card?
An Oubliette.
Oh, well that's not very good. So he had 3 lands.
I only get 2 cards with it, but I'm happy to see the Abyss gone. That's a thing that is hard to deal with, and I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the game now.
Until he Felden's Canes.
Yeah, he could do that. He could do that.
Greed. That's a 4 and black border greed. I have one of those. I have a couple of those. Like an Italian Legends, and I think I have like a 4 and black border Chinese 4th edition one. Greed is a card that, like, you know, it's on the same level of Sylvan Library, but not anywhere near as good. But it is really interesting. If you have life gain, you can really exploit
Yeah,
greed.
In a deck like this where he's gaining a ton of life, it's very good because you can just draw with impunity.
Now,
okay, so this is really what the entire game hinges on. Is if I can stick this time element.
That's right. Yes. Now
and then I can kind of control the board.
Now you've got the time elemental coming down. Does he have any way to deal with it? He needs an Oubliette here. So he's
well, he has lots of ways to deal with it. So he has Oubliette, but he also has Spirit Shackle. Although I guess the Shackle's bad because then I could just no, I think it would kill it. I could target the time elemental to bounce itself, but I think it would get the counter when it taps. I don't know, I'd have to think about the order that would resolve on the stack.
He needs an Oubliette for your time elemental, and he does not have it. You've got one in the graveyard, that's good. He did the greed to try and draw. If I were him, I would be greeding like crazy here because he at this point he's like, I got to get rid of that time elemental or shit's gonna start popping back into my hand.
I just remember that we fight over this time elemental for a really long time. Like he tries to kill it and I save it. He tries to kill it and I save it. And, like it becomes really the central battle of the game. Because I have to have it. I have to, if I can't control the board, and because if I get to keep it, I can start just bouncing my dudes and dropping those enchantments off into the graveyard.
So he mills you. He mills you there, and he gets a Diamond Valley and a Boomerang. The Diamond Valley might be relevant long term, but
they're not real cards unless you draw them.
Yeah, and then it's not too bad of a loss overall. Jaloom Tome coming in. So now you can start drawing. So he's got 2 of your guys Spirit Linked, and he's got the Island of Whack Whack for the other. So he's got you completely disabled from your creature perspective.
Yeah, but now if I really want to, I can start at the end of every turn. I can bounce dudes and
yeah, you can start bouncing.
Drop the enchantments off.
I would bounce that Clockwork first, right? And let that Spirit Link fall off.
Yeah, I think that's what I do. I don't remember. Oh, I remember I make this weird play where instead of just bouncing the Clockwork, which is what I should do, and making the Spirit Link go to the graveyard, I try to like edge some damage in by bouncing the Spirit Link itself, knowing he can replay it. but then he divine offerings my Clockwork Avian in response, which was really annoying. And then I'm like, I have now given him back a Spirit Link and lost my guy, which was a pretty terrible net play when the only real advantage would have been getting in like 4 extra damage or whatever. It was not a long-term play, and it was very bad. It was a pretty terrible.
So he
pretty
milled
terrible.
you. Yeah, he milled you there, and he got your other Amnesia and your Clockwork Avian.
And now that Spirit Link that I could have put in his graveyard and instead put in his hand just haunts me for the rest of the game. It's really awful.
Oh, that sucks, man. What a
but
brutal match.
It is what it is. That's why when you make play choices like that, they can definitely come back to bite you. So there's an Underworld Dreams. I'm not as scared of it this game because I've got a Time Elemental, so I can bounce it. But it does tie up my mana to have to use it on that and not use it on something else.
Triskelion coming in.
All right. Oh, and he's got a Mazavith over there too. So he's got a Mazavith and an Island of Wok. That's like, it's just so uphill. Maybe we don't play 3 games. I thought we played 3 games, but maybe we don't.
Well,
there's only 35 minutes left in the video.
Yeah, we're 3/4 way through here, or 2/3 through. Okay, so you put your Triskelion in, and he's got Mazavith to deal with that, so he's just got every answer. But that is what his deck does. Oh, look at this. Strip Mine. That's pretty convenient for that Mazavith. Wow, that's really good.
It's alright.
Alright, so you get in for 4 maybe.
Yeah, look at me. Big attacker.
Look at that.
I'm sure he's got a Divine Offering. I mean, he's got a lot of removal in his deck.
Yeah.
So I probably do I shoot him for 3 and then bounce it with Time Elemental and cast it again?
Yeah, that's what I would do. That is exactly what I would do. Shoot him for 3.
Or do I just shoot him for 2 and
then try and bounce in case he reacts, then you can shoot him for 1 and bounce it back then? Okay, so he gets no life in the Divine Offering. You shoot him for 2, and he Jaloom Tomes. You get the Triskelion back. And he discards land tax to the Jaloom Tome. Greeds. Draws again. You're like, yay.
I forwent doing the extra point of damage just in case he had another Divine Offering. In response.
Yeah, and you could have done it anyway. Once you activate the Time Elemental in response to the Time Elevation, you could still do it.
But then he could Divine Offering if he had another one. So like I was being extra cautious.
But you got him at 15.
He tried to ashes my Ghost Boat and my Time Elemental, and I used a Boomerang to save my Time Elemental, and I sent it back to my hand.
Ooh, that's very, very, very good. So does he still lose the 5 life there on the Ashes to Ashes then?
He does, yeah, and the Ghost Boat still gets exiled. It just
So should he be at 10 life then? Why didn't he lose 5? He went from 20 to 15. That's correct. Oh, you hadn't done any damage to him the whole game?
Well, he gained life, so I did some damage, but he also had gained life.
Well, he's drawing like a fiend on that Jaloom Tome.
Yeah, might as well, right? Lots of
And you want to
Lots
see
of
that.
ways.
You want to see that because you want to see him. You know, he's forgetting to millstone you. Why do you think he's forgetting to millstone?
I don't think he forgets very many turns. Maybe he forgot that turn, but I mean, it's not really relevant.
It is relevant because he can run you out of cards, and he's got Felden's Cane, and he's drawing a lot of extra.
He'll kill me faster with Underworld Dreams than he will with the millstone.
Well, you're going to play your time elemental here in a second.
Yeah. We fight over this time elemental for a long time. Whether or not I can stick it really is the determining factor of the game, I think. And against any of these kind of hardcore control decks, like me being able to stick and protect the time elemental usually is my way out of whatever nonsense they're doing.
Well, he doesn't have any blue, so he doesn't have any counter spells for things like Remove Soul. So he can only rely on his artifact, his enchant creature spells. Okay, so he's Jaloom Toming in response to you playing time elemental.
So why didn't...
Oh, and he discarded.
He's Jaloom Toming in response to me casting.
He discarded his second Jaloom Tome. That's interesting. I wonder why he didn't... he might want to keep that and...
So here's the deal. Had I earlier in the game, had I just bounced my dude and destroyed that Spirit Link, he wouldn't have had that Spirit Link to play on my Trike, and then I would not be in this position where I can't attack with my Trike. Like, I lose so much damage over that one decision from several turns ago.
Wow.
It's really, really, really detrimental to my entire game.
Oh, wow.
Because he doesn't have another answer for the Trike.
Right, and you had to spend that boomerang to protect your time elemental. You could have used that to boomerang your Triskelion after damaging him, and here you are boomeranging your time elemental again in response to the Oubliette.
Yeah, I just have to have it. I feel like if I can't protect that card, I'm gonna lose.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Lucas joins in, so now we have a gang of 4: Derek, Brian, JS, and Lucas all spectating this finals match. We got 6 people watching this finals match live. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun that there was enough hype for it.
Yeah.
Well, and it was the first tournament since like tournament 5 that Peter didn't win. So like, well, I guess I won tournament. I won the one right before this, right? Did I win tournament 14? Is this 14 or 15? This is 14.
This is 14.
So I think I must have won 13. And then this tournament is, I think, the one where Peter lost to the land tax deck, or maybe I think that's what happened in this one. Anyway, yeah, it is really screwed me. That one Spirit Link has really been a thorn in my side.
Actually, Peter did not play in this tournament. That's why he didn't win.
Okay, so that was tournament 13 then that he lost to the land tax deck, and then I won that tournament.
Yeah, that's when he played Max live.
He didn't play in this one.
Yeah, he played Max live, and as we've commentated before, like, the only matches that Peter has ever lost are matches that he played live.
Although I think he did, I think he did have a hand in designing Tim's deck here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did. He helped advise Tim on the build. He's talked about that.
So I'm kind of sort of playing against Peter, but not really.
You're playing against Peter Kincaid. Or you're playing against Tim Soltez.
But it's the pilot that gets the glory, and not the deck designer. It's not called Schneider; it's called Sly. So, what can you do?
That's funny. Okay.
So he's got a lot of answers now for my nonsense. He's got his Tanos' coffin, which is annoying.
So he just coffined your dude, and you didn't bounce him in response?
I can't. He has summoning sickness.
Oh,
otherwise I would.
Shit. Oh man, that sucks. Wow. So now he's neutralized your time elemental finally.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting over there with nothing relevant to attack with. It's really bad.
Yeah, he can strip mine your factory. He's got both of your dudes spirit linked. Oh man, this must have been a brutal match. Well, I mean, you know, hats off to Tim for just crushing it and dominating, but like this has got to be a miserable game for you.
I have had enough success at Four Horsemen, and I have enough outs in my deck that I didn't feel totally helpless. I mean, I think that there are some decks that probably did feel totally helpless playing against that build, but I felt like there were at least enough reasonable outs for me that I could still play Magic and try to like solve the puzzle of how to win. And it was just kind of nice to have somebody new come in and with a good build and shoot right up to the top.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you got to give Tim credit. He's a new player. He's played, I think, in two Four Horsemen games or tournaments prior to this, and his third attempt, he's all the way in the finals. You know, that's pretty cool. Christian has also been a new player who's very competitive and very good, and made it into the top 8 in semis as well. You know, you got to give your hats off to these guys who come into the format and they take a look at the deck photos, they look at what's going on in the meta, and then they really build something out of the box that's relevant and competitive. You gotta tip your hat to that. All right, so you're at 14. He's at 19. He got rid of your factory with his strip mine, which, you know, we knew that was probably coming. You're looking through your graveyard here. You've got only your one recall in your deck to try and get back stuff. So one of the things you might want to do is save lands for your to pitch to your recall. You've been dropping lands and stuff. It might be
or to pitch to Jalen Tome. I mean,
right.
I want to have like a lot of mana to utilize something like Time Elemental, but at the same time, I've got enough. I've got 9.
You get 10 mana here.
10 all together with the Felwar Stone. So like, I don't really need to play any more land.
Yeah, and in fact, you could have kept a few more in your hand, hoping that you can get.
I think I want 8 for sure, but
yeah, 10 not so much. 8 would be better. And so you just dropped another land there. I would have kept that land in your hand, hoping you could get into your recall. You really don't need to be playing those lands.
Yeah, probably not. I don't even really know what I'm hoping for here. Maybe just to draw another Time Elemental, I guess.
Yeah, you need Time Elemental and you need recall. That's your only outs. Oh boy, here comes the Ivory Tower. What's his hand count?
It's gotta be up there at this point.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of those enchant creatures spells because he's only used a couple of spirit links.
Okay. I'm just going to die to those Underworld Dreams. Like, it's just, that's the card that kills me in this matchup.
Yeah, and that's part of the strategy of his deck. He's like, hey, I can just wait you out and Underworld Dreams you to death.
I mean, it's a good one. It's a pretty good win condition because it's just a regular enchantment, which, is nigh impossible to remove in this format. And so, I mean, I have answers to it in blue. I can send it back to his hand, but in the absence of a Time Elemental, and I've already used a bunch of boomerangs, it's going to be tough to get those both in his hand at the same time and then hit him with my other Amnesia. There's Time Elemental there. So
there's Time Elemental number 2. Okay, he gets a Fountain of Youth and whatever else that was.
I certainly wouldn't mind having a life gain card out right now.
That Fountain of Youth could have been useful for you. You see you're flickering with your graveyard there. That could have been helpful to help you stave off the damage from all these underworlds. It's not looking good though.
I'm very jealous of that Spiritual Sanctuary in this match because if I could just be passively gaining a life every turn, that would really go a long way to smoothing out.
Yeah, maybe you need to start playing 4 Tundras in your deck just for the hell of it.
Yeah, right.
Well, and I mean, you know, you can fake your opponent out with things like, you know, you might have Divine Offering and whatever.
I mean, the funny thing is, I did splash white in the next tournament, and while it was effective in stopping decks like Tim's, I made it to the top. We ended up doing a top 16 instead of a top 8. And when I made it there, I just played against like a super fast aggro deck, and I stumbled on mana because instead of having my super smooth all blue mana base, I had this janky white mana base where I just drew a bunch of white and couldn't play any of my cards, and then just got killed. And I was like, well, that's what I get for janking my deck up.
That's funny. Janking your deck up.
Oh, so I guess I just die. I guess I just died of those Underworld dreams. I just can't get rid of them.
That's brutal, man. I mean, Tim has just a total lock on this game. That early Millstone is really, you know, cinched the deal. Like, there's no way you can outdeck him. And he's just killing you with Underworlds, and he's had all the enchant creatures he needs. That Thomas Coffin locking away your Time Elemental, and you got rid of your other Time Elemental too. Now you got a Coffin of your own, but not really relevant.
Yeah, it's too little too late. I mean, something like Coffin might have been cool really early on. I could build up a big, huge ticking time bomb of a Triskelion and, you know, blow him away for a gazillion damage. Which he also has that combo in his deck too, but he only has 1 trike. But yeah, I just couldn't draw the relevant pieces to deal with the Underworld dreams.
Yeah, so there it is, scooping it up. Wow, that was a really rough match. But, you know, I guess it's to be expected if you make it to the finals, and you're gonna have a tough go of it no matter which way it goes, right?
Well, and like I said, I didn't feel, you know, I don't really ever mind losing at Magic, but I hate it when I feel like one of the people just like basically doesn't get to play, which is why I don't love cards, you know, like Mind Twist or, you know, in some instances like Armageddon or whatever, because like you just make it so that your opponent can't play Magic. And I didn't really feel that way. Like I felt like I had outs in my deck and I had ways to try to solve the puzzle. I wasn't able to. I lost, but I didn't feel totally helpless playing the match. And so, you know, that went a long way to blunting the loss for me. And plus, you know, like I said, I've had a fair amount of success in this format, and I've also played in every tournament. Like I'm not necessarily looking to win, you know, more. Now it's just about refining my builds and, you know, seeing what other people play and seeing new people come in. And, you know, this was a cool deck that Tim came up with. It's tough. But at the same time, like we joke here, I'm like, hey, next month I'm playing Presence of the Master, so get ready for it. And, you know, then there were some discussions about whether people would actually play Presence of the Master or not. And I was like, nah, nobody will probably play it. And then I did, and, you know, a few other people did too. I think you did as well. And I played against a very similar deck in the next tournament, and I played Presence of the Master, and it just shut the entire deck off, and I just destroyed them.
Right.
So, you know, it's interesting that, like, you can look at a format like this and see a way to exploit the vulnerabilities of not being able to remove enchantments, but then on the other hand, you have a kill switch for it. You can just say, oh, your deck doesn't work at all.
Yeah. You guys here are looking at all the different sideboard options. So you did put in all your life gain. You put in exactly what we thought. Your 3 time elementals, your 5 life gain, and your millstone. It's exactly what we were talking about. It's interesting. He's put in his greater realms of preservations for black and red, but you don't have any black and red. What's he doing with those?
We might just be talking about him. I don't know if he actually had him sided into his deck, but let me tell you, I hate that card exists in this format. Like, I think one of the good things about getting away from ABU is not having circular protections in your pool, because those cards are annoying, and it sucks that there still is one. Like, way back in Four Horsemen Tournament 1, I built a mono red deck, and then, like, round 1, game 1, the guy played Greater Realm of Preservation against me, and I was like, oh, cool, fun format. I'm playing no ABU, and I'm still getting circled.
Wow.
But it is what it is, I guess. You know, it defends against red and black, but it doesn't really do anything against my mono blue. So
yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, red is pretty crushing and very powerful. So, but black is not got a ton of direct damage, at least not in Four Horsemen. So, and you do have to have the white and the colorless. It does get expensive to do multi sources, but certainly once per turn, that greater realm can be activated pretty easily, and mid to late game it can be activated multiple times. Well, okay, so that wraps it up for us for Four Horsemen tournament number 14, the finals. Tim Kincaid emerges victorious 2-0 versus John. Blue Steel Robots goes down. Underworld Sanctuary emerges victorious. This was a great tournament, and we had a great turnout. And, all in all, I think this showed that a new player to Four Horsemen with an out of the box, innovative thinking and creative deck can really take it all the way to the finals and win. So hats off to Tim Kincaid for doing that and accomplishing that. And we hope to see Tim in many of our future Four Horsemen tournaments. With that, I think we will sign off for tournament number 14 finals. Thanks for joining me, John, and congrats on another semifinals for you. And to our viewers, we'll say good night.
Good night.